Get ready to gaze deep into your fellow players' eyes and minds, and get none of the help you're looking for. Let's become one in the mind. From Pandasaurus Games. Hi, I'm Andy at Board Game Barrister. This play-along tutorial is designed to guide you through your first game of The Mind as you play it, so feel free to grab your copy of the game and play along. This is a video for the original The Mind game. You can find our play-along tutorial for its standalone sequel, The Mind Extreme, linked in the description below. Let's start by opening up your box and retrieving your cards. You should have 100 number cards, 12 level cards, 5 life cards, and 3 throwing star cards. As in all of our play-along tutorials, there will be moments where I suggest that you pause the video while you get caught up. Let's pause now while you get your cards sorted and ready. Okay, let's get set up for your first game. The first thing we'll do is refer to this chart in your rulebook, which will tell you, based on how many players you have, how many levels you'll need to pass in order to win the game, as well as your number of starting lives and starting throwing stars. Stack the levels listed there in order, so that level 1 is on the top of the stack and the highest level card is at the bottom. Any remaining level cards can go back in the box. Then set the listed number of starting lives off to the side of your play area, along with 1 throwing star. Store the remaining lives and stars out of play but accessible. I like to keep them in the box like so. Lastly, shuffle the 100 number cards and place the deck in the center of the table. That's all for setup, so let's pause again here while you get your game set as shown here. Alright, let's get playing! The Mind is a game of connecting with your fellow players in order to play cards in order. The number deck contains 1 each of cards numbered 1 through 100. Each level you'll be dealt more and more cards, and when the level begins, it's up to you and your fellow players to play the cards in your hands in order from lowest to highest. However, you'll have to do it without communicating amongst yourselves in any way. No talking, no hand signs, no coded eye movement messages, although the rules don't say anything about ambiguous, stressed out, wide-eyed eyebrow raising, so that's on the table. Instead, you'll need to get a sense for one another's play tendencies, and when you think it's the right time to play your 53 card, well, go for it. But each mistake will cost the team a life, and your goal is to make it through the final level with lives remaining. Let's get to it. Each of your levels will begin the same way. First, deal each player a number of cards matching the current level. So you can deal everyone 1 card now for level 1. Take a look at your card. It is secret information until you decide to play it. In a minute, you'll all place your hands in the center of the table. Take a deep breath and remove your hands simultaneously. That means the level has begun. When that time comes, it is up to you to decide when it is the right time to play your cards. If you're holding the 2, you should have a pretty easy call to make and play your card more or less right away. Whereas the 77 will make you wait, sweat a bit, and hope your team is on the same page. There are no turns, so when you want to play a card, you can just do so. As long as cards are being successfully played in order, play can continue. However, if you see that someone has played a card higher than one of the cards in your hand, you must immediately reveal your lower card or cards, which are now considered out of order, and set them aside out of play. For each out of order card, your team immediately loses one of its lives, and if you lose your last life, the game ends and you must restart at level 1. And when everyone's hand is empty, the level is complete. With that in mind, let's try level 1 now. Pause the video, then it's hands in the center of the table, and you're off. Level 1 complete! Good job! Now don't worry if you lost lives on level 1. The numbers are so spread out that level 1 can often be way harder than it seems. Plus, you'll eventually have chances to win some of those lives back. Let's get set for level 2. Return the level 1 card back to the box, revealing the level 2 card underneath it. Reshuffle the entire deck of number cards, including those that were played in level 1 and any that were set aside for being out of order. Then deal 2 to each player. Now, as your hand starts to grow, the levels can get a lot more hectic, and there may be heroic moments or tragic ones, all of which can be pretty distracting while you're trying to read your fellow players' minds and perfectly time your next card. So anytime you feel you need to refocus on the task at hand, you can place a hand in the center of the table. This signals your fellow players to do the same as you would at the start of a level, so that you can all refocus and continue the level from where you left off. I recommend treating each refocus as if the top card in the pile was just played, so that everyone has some reference for when to start playing their remaining cards. With that in mind, you should play level 2 now. Pause here, hands in, focus, and you're off. Alright, now depending on how in sync your group is, you may already have lost some or even all of your lives, but because this is a learning game, let's keep at least one life as we prepare for level 3. The first thing you'll need to do after surviving level 2 is collect the reward. Levels 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9 will each show a reward in the bottom right corner of the level card. In the case of level 2, that reward is a throwing star, so take one throwing star card from out of play and add it to your supply. Speaking of throwing stars, we should talk about how to use them. When the group unanimously agrees to use a throwing star, each player will immediately get to discard the lowest value card in their hand from play. At any time during a level, you can signal to your group that you would like to use a throwing star by raising your hand. If all the other players agree by also raising their hands, then a throwing star is used immediately. Discard one of your throwing stars back to the box. Then each player takes the lowest value card in their hand and discards it out of play. Refocus, and you're good to carry on with your level. When's a good time to use a throwing star? Frankly, whenever you think it will help the group you're playing with. There are different strategies to this that are fun to discover by trial and error, but the one thing I will say is that in my playgroup, we often try to use them when most or all players have at least one card left in their hand, so that we'll all get more effect from using it. And don't be afraid to use them. You can't acquire more lives or throwing stars than there are available in the supply. So if you're maxed on throwing stars and there's one coming up as a reward, it's a great time to raise those hands. Alright, we're off to the next level. Remove the level 2 card to reveal level 3. Shuffle your number cards, including those played, and in the future any that were discarded by throwing stars. Then deal each player 3 cards. Pause here and you're ready to focus and proceed. Well, you're now all set to keep on pushing through those levels. If you run out of lives, that just means it's time to shuffle up and start fresh at level 1, getting more connected with your group every time you go through. And don't get discouraged. This game is tough, so you can expect to need to restart a number of times. Thank you for joining me for this play-along tutorial. You can find more like it here, and we'll see you next time.